Welcome to Pick Yourself Up. I'm Asagid Haptold, your host. Today in our studio, we have Eric Rasch. He is the operation manager of Civic Center in downtown Silver Spring Veteran Plaza. Today we're going to talk about his service and the kind of lessons that he learned from life and other things. Eric, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. If you have to explain yourself to someone within 1 minute, how would you explain yourself? Who is Eric?
That's a great question. Eric is a type of person that's very open to a lot of different people, ideas, looking at things through different perspectives. I really like to connect with people, and that's the type of person I am. I can find something interesting with everybody I talk with.
Awesome. I have read your biography, and I have seen that you've been serving for years community organizations. Why?
Well, it's another good question. It's not really like why as in how did I pick it, but what it is, it kind of chose me in a way. You know, I'm the type of guy, I grew up in a neighborhood where I was always out and about in the streets, running around with friends. I didn't like to be in the house a lot. And I found my way at a community center, and when I was at the community center, I started kind of working with the kids there with their basketball, and it was a time when I was working also at an ice skating rink, and that was a seasonal position. So when the ice skating rink would close up for the winter, colder months, I was at the rec center playing basketball, and the executive director at the time said, "Would you like a job here?" And I said, "Sure, I would love it," because I didn't have anything. And so I started working with kids in that facility. I was working, we had a soup kitchen for the homeless. We fed the homeless there. We had after-school programs, campfire kids. We had summer camps. You name it, we did it. And they gave me a lot of ability to run and manage that building at a young age. And so I kind of fell in love with the ability to have the freedom to do that. Of course, you always had to report to somebody, and I had an executive director, and we had our board also that was in charge of that nonprofit. And that's kind of where I started to have this passion and learn to be, you know, working with the community and trying to just serve. It felt good.
Whenever I come to the Civic Center or whenever we meet each other, I see you that you're passionate about meeting different people and so on. Could you be able to say that you found your passion where you serve right now?
Oh, totally. I mean, I'm blessed beyond belief to be leading the Silver Spring Civic Building. It's a place where people come from all walks of life to celebrate usually, or to have civic engagements where they're talking about different events and different subjects, hot subjects. Tonight we're going to have a big conversation, community conversation with nearly 500 people and talking about the education gap in Montgomery County. And so it's phenomenal to be there because you get to learn something every day, you get to meet different people, and I feel good, and it feels like very rewarding at the end of the day.
You mentioned about education gap. What do you think is the place of education for someone to be successful?
Well, I'm not going to be able to give a great answer on that because it's a challenging question. You know, the thing about education is we all know that you're better positioned the more education you get. You know, things are going to be, instead of it taking 10 hours to do something, if you're educated, it may take you 1 hour to do it. So there's a lot of benefit in being educated and being able to, you know, really understand complex ideas and workarounds. The thing I think that's important to remember is that in life you should always be looking to learn and grow. I think that's an important component of it.
Yeah, I agree with you because learning happens formally, informally, through experience and so on. Some lessons you have to go to school and formally learn. And I have met a lot of people, their lives changed because they decided to grow. They decided to educate themselves. So are there any educational or learning opportunities in the Silver Spring metro area that you know, but many people may not know?
Oh yeah, there are a lot of educational opportunities. I mean, one that I have to mention is Montgomery College, the Silver Spring Tacoma Park campus. It's you know, only blocks from the Silver Spring Civic building. It's really in the heart of downtown Silver Spring, and they just have a world-class education system. It is one of those things where if you go through that rank of that community college, the folks that went through are going to be better prepared and suited to a career, to have a job readiness and skills that you should be able to be successful in the workforce after going through that program. I'll give you an example too. I have my own personal community college story. When I was in Kansas City, I wanted to make sure that I was able to pay for school. And one of the #1 things I heard from people was student debt is really hard to overcome. Once you get in debt, it's going to be hard to overcome. And so I heard that, and I'm the type of person that really watches my money. And so I looked at going to a 4-year college and a 2-year college and get an associate's degree, and the associate's degree seemed like the right path for me. So that's what I did, and I got my associate's degree in Kansas City, and I was in the workforce at the same time, but I was able to pay for school, pay for books without going into incredible debt.
I completely agree with you. One of the competitive advantage someone should have to succeed in their profession, in life, and business is to continually grow, and they should find ways to educate themselves. I'm an immigrant. One of the reasons why I do what I love to do is because I spend a lot of time educating myself, and I encourage audience members, because it's very hard really to go to school. There are a lot of other opportunities, burning issues, urgencies, and also a lot of challenges in terms of getting the funding and getting the time to read and so on. But it's worth, because at the end of the day, it's gonna pay you back. It's gonna serve you more, even if it costs you money and time and energy and so on. Let's talk about one of the reasons that I have this show, and our name is Pick Yourself Up, is to encourage people to pick themselves up and to continue to move forward, regardless of the challenges they face. I believe that every one of us, we have challenges. We have ways, however, on how to overcome them and outgrow our setbacks. Do you remember any setbacks that challenged you, but at the end of the day, you overcame it? And what helped you to overcome that setback?
Yeah, that's a great question, and one that everybody can relate to. I know everybody has challenges in their lives and setbacks, and that's something that you have to really look within to figure out how am I going to deal with it. It's always easy to give folks advice, but it's harder to be able to figure out what am I going to do to get myself to the next level. And when I had my associate's degree, I was in the workforce, and I had a fantastic job, and the job was going great. But I also wanted more. I'm the type of person that likes a challenge. And when I started looking at other jobs, I started saying, wow, that job needs a bachelor's degree. So how do I get the bachelor's degree when I only have an associate's? Well, it means you have to go back to school. Again, another challenge was, well, it's going to cost quite a bit of money. So how am I going to do that? So you start then thinking, what is it that you would, kind of replace for an education? And I thought to myself, if I had to buy a new car and spend $10,000 on a new car, would I rather have the new car or the education and the bachelor's degree? And you start then comparing stuff, and the car didn't matter to me. The bachelor's degree was the most important thing. And so that's what my focus was. And when I realized that that's what I need to do is go back to school, I jumped back into school and went to University of Missouri, Kansas City. And from there, I was prepared and ready because my mind was focused. And I ended up making straight A's on the dean's list semester after semester because my heart was in it, my mind was in it, and my focus was in it. And it was just one of those things when you're ready for something, you got to look within and tell yourself that you're ready for that next level.
I like that. Unless we are challenged, one of the things when I make discussions with some people, they tell me that, I've never had any failure, I never had any challenge, I'm lucky. I always say, no, that's not the right thing. Because if you have been moving forward, this is a natural law. Yeah. As far as you're moving forward, there is an equal or greater force that's resisting you. which means you're going to face challenges and setbacks. And digging deep into your reserve, into who you are, I think is the anchor that you need really to overcome challenges. Do you remember any leader, or do you think of any leader that you admire because they are resilient, they overcame challenges? Any leader that comes into your mind that you admire? It could be a personal acquaintance, or it could be from history, someone you admire because they were resilient, they overcame a lot of challenges.
Well, I'll tell you, I had a lot of leaders and mentors that challenged me and that told me to dig deep and figure out, you know, what is it that you're going to get that's going to bring you on to this next challenge. And what a lot of them did was say, you know what, you can listen to me and you can hear what I have to say, but go get these books that I've read that are going to be more effective. And one that I would recommend for everybody is this book called Leadership on the Line. And that book really is going to talk about a lot of setbacks that you're going to experience, and looking inside and making sure that your values are what's going to lead you to those tough, difficult decisions that you're going to have to make. So I would recommend Leadership on the Line as a book to start for folks that are really experiencing some challenges at work or in their personal life. And that should maybe help clarify things and get you thinking, which is the biggest thing. Your brain and your ability to solve problems yourself is one of your best assets.
Thanks for sharing that. Leadership on the Line. I'll check it out. But you mentioned one thing that I think we need to further talk about it for a couple of minutes, which is values. You said, what is the place of values? Because, you know, people I've seen again and again, I read stories, I meet people who have values, who are clear about their values. They could be able to really overcome a lot of challenges because they know who they are, for what they stand up for. Therefore, nothing defeats them because they are clear about their values.
Well, the values is incredibly important. In fact, when I went back for my master's degree at George Washington University in Washington, D.C., one of my most important classes that I took focused on values. The whole class was really about values and understanding other aspects of leadership, but a big portion of that was values. And what you really came to realize was how values lead everything else. And once you settle on your values, you're really able to determine and you know, the tough decisions, the tough choices, whatever, you know, comes in front of you as a way to figure it out. What is our values? And you look at that, and it's really easy to work with people if you value relationships and someone comes with a very difficult, tough problem. You just focus on the relationship, not necessarily the problem. You say, you know what if I was in their shoes? How am I going to help fix that? And, you know, those values, you know, they take away some of those difficult aspects to work, and it brings it back to, you know, why are you here? I'm here to serve. I'm a public servant. So.
Awesome. This is an interesting topic. We're going to talk about that when we come back from the break, but this is the right time to take a quick break. Dear our viewers, we will be back very soon. Stay tuned.
Sweetheart, think about your future. Jeff over there did, and just look at him. He saved up, bought a house, he's got a beautiful wife, they even had a fancy pants destination wedding, and oh, they had a baby! Ah! Smart and handsome, ooh la la. Now, I've been saving these frames for pictures of my future grandbabies for years, and the shopping sprees on organic clothing and telephone cases is not helping you save for a family. Oh, gracious! Look at that! He's a model! Oh. I bet you he's putting all that money right into a 401k or his baby's college fund. And his teeth are so straight. See how good saving can look at feedthepig.org. Feed the pig.
Welcome back. This is Pick Yourself Up. Today we are in our studio with Eric Rasch. He's the operation manager of Civic Center in downtown Silver Spring Veteran Plaza. Eric, we're back. We were talking about values before we took a break.
Yeah.
This is a very interesting topic, and I want to push it a little bit more. Yeah. How much value is important to an individual, to a professional, to a leader? to be successful, to continue to advance in whatever they do?
Yeah, that's a great question. Again, I think it depends also where you fall in the organization. You know, if you're, let's say, a staff person and you have a boss, if your values don't necessarily match up with the boss, you may have to say, this isn't the right job for me. And as the boss, you may have to also set your values and make sure that the staff understands what those are and that you guys are both on the same page. So I've found it, you know, sometimes when you're in a position and you feel like, you know, things are shifting and they're not exactly the same, going the same way, if it's not really matching your values, you may want to start looking somewhere else. Because the one thing I think with everybody is you can always find a job that's going to really resonate with you. It just might not be the right job at this time. When I was younger, I took a lot of part-time jobs to find out what was going to be my job. And through that process, I learned what jobs weren't right for me and what jobs were. And so that gives you even all the more comfort to realize when you're in a for me, public service is part of my values and my core, that it's easy when you're here to serve people. And so, you know, but necessarily, you know, working at a retail spot where I'm selling clothes, that might not really be my part of my core value. So, you know, it's harder for me to tell you you look good in something if I think you don't. So, yeah. But yeah, I love serving people, and I just feel really good about that.
Yeah, I wrote a book. My fourth book was about the highest level of greatness, and one's success, one's greatness should be determined whether that person is on his purpose, on her passion, and whether that person has vision and core values. And I have studied a lot of people who succeeded. And what I have seen is that those people who are clear about their values, the people who discovered their values, they're mostly quick in making decisions, even risky ones. Yeah. I remember a quotation by Roy Disney. He said that when values are clear, making decisions are easy. Yeah. So those people who are very successful in the corporate world or in government, in politics, who are making quick decisions while they don't have enough data, yeah, these are the people who are clear about their values. And I agree with you. Many people, when they look for jobs, opportunities, partnerships, they don't use their values like a barometer, like to gauge and say, okay, this is not the right person for me. This is not the right opportunity for me. This is not the right job for me. But values really are, they make or break one's success.
You know, when I first got to the Civic building, what I did was I worked with the team to make sure that we were on the same page with our values, and I posted our values. You know, safety is one of my top concerns and values. So if I see something that seems unsafe at the Civic building, that's going to bother me. That's not going to sit well with me. And so if I see anybody, and we all value the same thing, safety is very important, that if we see an unattended bag, for instance, that's going to be something that we're all concerned about. We're going to give each other a call. Do we know whose bag this is? If we don't, it's going to be considered a suspicious bag or package. If there's water on the floor, that's also something that's a safety risk. So that's important. Communications is really important. When the job that we're in, we're working with events left and right. Big events, small events, personal events. Think of a wedding or a bar mitzvah or a quinceañera or a graduation or a sweet 16. We have to be able to communicate well with each other, from the security team to the maintenance team to the logistics specialist. So communication is really important. And if there's a failure in the breakdown in communications, I'll have to address that, and we want to make sure that that's sitting well with this as well. There's customer service is another core value. You know, are we thinking, you know, how can we better serve this customer? What's the best way we can help them? We also want to look at it through the voice of the customer. What would the customer say? You know, do they think it's fair that we're talking this way about this particular situation? Even though we have policies and procedures, we also want to look at the circumstances. You know, someone lost a loved one and they need to cancel or reschedule. That's something that we really are going to have to take into consideration. And so these things, you know, matter because again, we're thinking about the customer and what it would be like to be in their shoes.
I mean, your decision is really smart because you're clear about your values, and you gave me some examples. That shows me that you're clear about your values. And one thing you mentioned about is it bothers you. When you see something unsafe, it bothers you. One thing I learned from my research and conversation with leaders is that one may have a value. If they are quiet when that value is compromised or affected, that means that's not their value. If that doesn't bother them, if they're not ready to defend, promote their values, if they're not ready to stand up for their values, it's not their values.
Yeah.
They just copied it from somewhere and they just say that this is my value, unless they defend it, unless it bothers them when that value is compromised or challenged or violated.
Yeah, I totally agree. You know, it doesn't sit well with me when I see something that's just not going well. And in some instances, you may have, let's say, a staff person says, I needed to go get a cup of coffee. And they may say, well, you know, it shouldn't be a problem that I ran and get a cup of coffee. That's never a problem. The problem is, did you communicate to somebody that you need to go get a cup of coffee to go, you know, to leave your post or to you know, make sure that we had the customers, be able to help the customer. So it always boils back down to the values, you know, and then you really, you know, when you can refocus on why, you know, I may say, hey, where were you at? Oh, I went to get a cup of coffee. Those are type of things where you can just say, if you had just said, I'm going to step out and 15 minutes later I'll be back, the communication would have been there and we're back on track with that. So
yeah, in this case, you're not the boss, which means the values are the boss.
The values
because
are the boss.
Leaders, when they are clear about the power of values, what they do is they empower their values. Yeah. They hire people who share their values. They promote people who promote those values, embrace those values. They call out people who are not sharing those values or people who are not respecting, which means indirectly the boss is the values, because they're the one hiring people, promoting people, and so on and so forth. Let's talk about diversity and inclusion. Yeah. How do you see the state of Maryland or Silver Spring area or Montgomery County in terms of diversity and inclusion in your own eyes? Because you meet people, diverse people, you hang out with diverse people. So do you think we are a diverse community and inclusion is our culture?
Yeah, I mean, we are a diverse community, and inclusion is our culture, without a doubt. You know, we in Montgomery County have a saying of one Montgomery, which is we're all one, and we really want to make sure that everybody has a voice, has a seat at the table, and they feel empowered as well to talk, to be, you know, engaged, and so you know, it's really unlike anywhere I've been before. I came from the Midwest, which in Kansas City it was also diverse, but it was not nearly as diverse as Montgomery County, Maryland, in the Washington metropolitan region. But you know, you meet people with all different types of backgrounds, new immigrants. You have folks that have been here for a long time and a part of our community and a thread in our community. And you have folks that are, you know, now wanting to become involved too. Think of a new parent that just, you know, never thought at all about the school system. Now they're getting ready to have a child in the school system and they want to become involved. So there's people that sometimes, you know, it's hard to be involved, but we all really try to listen. If we're in government, we really try to listen to the community and make sure we're doing what we can to support those, even when they're not really able to make it. Some folks have 2 or 3 jobs and they can't make it to a county council, you know, meeting, but the information that they're giving us through a different type of a meeting, or if we're going to see them on the streets and talk with them and get their perspectives, we want to make sure that those voices are included at the decision table. And in Montgomery County, I know equity is really, really a big push right now, making sure that everybody, that our decisions are made through an equity lens as well.
By the way, you already know that when we promote diversity and push for inclusive culture, it's not because this is something that looks good. Yeah. This is, you know, this has a business case, which means when you study counties or organizations that are diverse, those companies who have diverse cultures and that embraces inclusiveness, they are more profitable, more stable, more creative than others who are not diverse. So promoting diversity and embracing inclusion is beneficiary in many ways, and that should be promoted. So do you have any suggestions? For example, you already said that this is a diverse county and inclusion is embraced as a culture, but we can always do better. There are always better ways to take us to the next level. Do you have any suggestions?
Well, I do think there's a business case, and a proven business case. Those companies, those organizations that don't look diverse, that don't reflect the customers that they're working with, they really are behind the curve in a lot of ways. And they're just one problem away from really being in trouble because they didn't have anybody on their board to show them a different option or a different way of looking at things, a different perspective. Montgomery County, we're lucky. We're always looking, though, too, to do better and to make sure that we're looking at it through different lenses, through different perspectives. So I would say that, you know, it's important that we are there and we continue to promote diversity as well.
Let's talk about your approach in terms of, for example, reaching out to people who are having different background than yours, because I have seen you crossing cultures. What helped you to succeed in that? Because I see you hanging out with people from diverse background, cultures, race, and what helped you? What kind of skills helped you to succeed in that?
Again, just being open to meeting new people. And, you know, as a child, my dad used to take me to different festivals, and I grew up in a fairly diverse neighborhood as well. And so, you know, those experiences and meeting different people and being invited over to their houses and, you know, doing those things, it really gave you a sense of just get to know people. And I think that there's a sense that when I meet somebody that I really am genuinely interested in meeting you and finding out. And so the beauty is when people invite you places and they say, hey, would you like to come to this? I really try to be there. Of course, I can't be everywhere, and there's other competing demands for my time, but when I go, I'm all in. I'm not going for a meeting and, you know, leaving 5 minutes later after it started just to kind of make a presence. I want to actually know, what are we talking about, what's going on in this meeting, and then after the meeting we can talk and continue and grab coffee or tea and, you know, try to connect people. And so, you know, I've found that I've been tremendously I benefit myself when I do that. I learn so much, but I also feel great because I connect people, and they appreciate that as well.
How do people reach out to you if they want to ask you questions or reach out to know more about what you do? Sure.
Well, folks are always welcome to contact me in Montgomery County, and my email address is eric, ERIC.Rasch, R-A-S-C-H, at montgomerycountymd.gov. That's a great way to reach me. But also, you know, I'm on social media like Twitter, and you could, you know, tweet me or just come to the Civic building or see me in downtown Silver Spring. I'm always out and about, walking around at different events, festivals, riding my bike. You'll see me, and I'm very approachable. So feel free just to stop in and say, hi, I met a guy last night from London, and we talked for a good 20 minutes. And awesome. You know, and it was the same thing. He just came up to me and we started talking, and those really are great ways to connect. Yeah, I attest to that. I have seen you're very approachable, very friendly when people visit you in the workplace. Thank you very much. I know you're very busy, but you have carved your time to come here and share your story. So thank you very much on behalf of our viewers. Thank you. Dear our viewers, I hope that you enjoyed our conversation. Until I see you with another program, thank you very much for watching.